The humiliation of the Republican Party's lack of ability or willingness to select a Speaker of the House has come to a close, and it has come to a close in the most disastrous possible way, with the selection of MAGA extremist Mike Johnson. Mike Johnson has become the Speaker of the House. You might be saying, who the hell is this guy? Well, this is a guy who spread many of the same corrosive lies that Trump spread about the 2020 election. This is a guy who once wrote in favor of criminalizing homosexuality. This is a guy who is the worst of the worst of the worst of the Republican Party. And he indeed has won. He indeed has won. NBC reports House Speaker Mike Johnson played a key role in efforts to overturn the 2020 election. He led an amicus brief in support of a Texas lawsuit looking to overturn Joe Biden's 2020 victory in 4 battleground states. This is some of the most extreme of extreme Republicans at this point in time. It is also reported new Speaker of the House Mike Johnson once wrote in support of the criminalization of gay sex. Isn't that some beautiful small government conservatism or something like that? A right-wing activist, Benny Johnson, celebrated a bunch of things that he likes about Mike Johnson. Let's take a look at the list. You'll see it's a pretty dystopian list. Posting, quote, who is Mike Johnson of Louisiana? He's America First and MAGA. Not good. He's an ally of the House Freedom Caucus. That's an extreme group in the House. His mentor is Jim Jordan, the guy who did nothing about serial sexual assault at Ohio State when he worked there. He served as legal defense for Trump during both impeachment trials, one of the most deranged groups I can imagine being a member of. He voted against all Ukraine spending after the initial bill. He has an F rating for Republicans for Ukraine. He objected to certifying the 2020 election, and he called for Nancy Pelosi's arrest when she visibly and comically ripped up Trump's State of the Union address on camera. That is a scary list for sure. This is a guy who has pushed the there are post-birth abortions lie. He insisted Trump won in January of 2020. He said January 6th was a legitimate protest. He said COVID was a hoax and vaccines are dangerous, that Social Security is a Ponzi scheme, that Medicare should be cut, that climate change is a hoax. This guy is a serious MAGA extremist. And if you don't believe me or you're not convinced by that list, you need only look at the completely lunatic speech that was all about scripture that maybe is relevant to him, but certainly has no place in civil government, given the separation of church and state outlined by the Constitution of the United States. Here was Mike Johnson's speech, heavy on God, heavy on scripture. Listen to this.
I don't believe there are any coincidences in a matter like this. I believe that scripture, the Bible, is very clear.
Right.
That God is the one that raises up those in authority. He raised up each of you, all of us. And I believe that God has ordained and allowed each one of us to be brought here for this specific moment in this time. This is my belief. I believe that each one of us has a huge responsibility today to use the gifts that God has given us to serve the extraordinary people of this great country, and they deserve it. And to ensure that our republic remains standing as the great beacon of light and hope and freedom in a world that desperately needs it.
This is a dangerous religious ideologue just from one religion, right? And he is again going first to this is all about scripture and the glory of God. And by the way, check out how creepy this is. I'm cringing just by even saying this. Mike Johnson talked about how his wife was worn out from spending the last few weeks on her knees. Do these people have no ability to consider how bizarre they seem when they say this crap?
She spent the last couple of weeks on her knees in prayer to the Lord, and she's a little worn out. She's
a little worn out. Presented without comment. All right, that's why she wasn't there, apparently. Now, of course, Donald Trump is attempting to take credit for Mike Johnson. Mike Johnson is a very MAGA-aligned guy, so it makes sense that Trump would be happy, but that's not enough for Trump. Trump also has to take credit. It has to be all because of him. First and foremost, here is Trump coming out of or going into court yesterday and saying good things about Mike Johnson. Why? Well, because Mike Johnson is a MAGA believer. That's why.
Mr. President, will you visit Capitol Hill for the Speaker of the House race to meet with House members in person?
I think Mike Johnson is doing very well. He's a tremendous congressman, respected by everybody. I hear.
By the way, he's respected by none of the Democrats and only by some Republicans, interestingly.
It looks like it's really good. I haven't had one negative comment about him. Everybody likes him. Just respected by all, and that's something we need. And it looks like that's going to happen. So that'll be a wonderful thing. I put out a truth today on him.
Yep. He put out a truth. And then, of course, that was probably actually what pushed Johnson's candidacy over the edge.
Truth, essential.
Yeah, Trump's truth. All right. And then later, of course, Trump taking credit for this, saying, hey, listen, I was happy to help him.
I just want to congratulate Mike Johnson. He will be a great Speaker of the House, and we were very happy to help. I've known him for a long time. He's a tremendous leader and a tremendous man. Comes from a wonderful place, Louisiana. He's going to make us all proud. So at this time yesterday, nobody was thinking of Mike. And then we put out the word, and now he's the Speaker of the House. So I want to just...
Trump put out the word, and next thing you know, this guy's Speaker.
Thank all of the supporters that I have, and I want to thank all of the supporters that Mike has. And again, he will be a great Speaker. I think you're going to be very proud of him.
All right. Anyway, so basically it's this guy supports every lie I told, so I like him, and also he should thank me because I'm really the guy who got him elected. The big story here, and we're going to look at a Matt Gaetz clip in order to sort through this. The big story is MAGA is very much still in power, and this alleged criminal Donald Trump is in full control of one of the two major parties of the United States. Let's talk about that next. So much of the news media that we consume is corporately owned with all kinds of financial and political interests that influence the reporting. And our sponsor, Ground News, takes every source for every news story, breaks down who owns the media outlet, shows you how the story is being spun across the political spectrum. For example, I'm looking at this story about Republicans in Congress trying to pass a law to keep Palestinian refugees out of the U.S. Ground News shows us here the great article that The Hill wrote about it. But besides that, only right-wingers are reporting about it. Fox News, Breitbart, Washington Times, probably because it's something their readers will love and will eat up. Ground News lets you see how Breitbart's headline for the story is twisted to bash Joe Biden. This is an extraordinary tool for comparing coverage, for helping you spot sensational content, identify the facts, especially with, for example, this escalation of the Hamas-Israel war that is taking place. Extraordinarily contentious issue. Language and perspective really matter here. When you go to ground.news/Pacman, you'll get 30% off their Vantage plan, which gives you unlimited access for around $5 a month. They also have a plan that costs under $1 a month. The link is down below.